Hey there, a little bird. Okay, a great big airline tells me that you're going to New York for the very first time. I come from New York. I love New York. It's a city where whatever's going to happen in the world happens first. Now, you have to do all the tourist attractions. Now, don't be shy. Everyone goes to these places because they are wonderful. And these are the 10 things that is practically illegal not to do. Okay, close your eyes and think of New York. What do you see? The Empire State Building, the most famous building in the city, if not the world. Completed in 1931. Even in those days, it took only just over a year to build. Go up to the observatory on the 88th floor and gaze down. It's the ultimate New York experience, and over 110 million people have experienced it. And I know it's a cliche, but 110 million people can't be wrong. Okay, if you didn't think of the Empire State Building, you thought of the Statue of Liberty, right? Obviously not as big as the Empire State Building, but much, much bigger than you think it's going to be. Over 300 feet tall and weighing more than 200 tons, the place was reopened last year. And once again, you can go inside and look out over the harbor from right up in the crown. The Statue of Liberty is more than a monument. She is a friend and a living symbol of freedom to millions. A phrase like that may sound a bit corny now, but when you get there, believe me, it won't. On to number 3, the Rockefeller Center. This Art Deco complex built in the 1930s is a towering monument to the legendary tycoon John D. Rockefeller. It's the hub of Midtown Manhattan, like a city within a city. There are 19 buildings there and it's growing all the time. I think it's worth spending a bit of time here, taking in the wonderful Art Nouveau murals and mosaics on the walls. In the winter, you simply have to try the world-famous open-air skating rink. Right, that's enough tall buildings. Number 4, Central Park. The lungs of New York City. 800 acres of pure heaven, especially on a Sunday morning when the sun is shining. It took 16 years to complete. Well, among other things, they had to plant more than 500,000 trees and shrubs. You might want to wander away from the obvious places like the East Meadow and the Great Lawn and explore the North End. It's beautiful, it's tranquil, has 5 waterfalls and a lot more than 5 species of rare birds. If you're ever there in mid-June, try and catch the New York Grand Opera performing in the open air. You're not keen on opera? You soon will be. Number 5, appropriately enough, 5th Avenue, the core of the Big Apple. It doesn't disappoint. This is when you really think, I'm in New York. Yellow cabs, teeming sidewalks, smoking manhole covers, and some of the most staggering shops and buildings in the world. They're all here. Saks, Bloomingdale's, Berghoff Goodman, Cartier, Tiffany's. There's the Trump Tower, St. Patrick's Cathedral, New York Public Library. Once you've been to New York, this is the bit you see when you close your eyes. Or it might be this bit. Times Square and the Theater District. Times Square is known as the crossroads of the world. Very seedy in the 70s, but restored and rejuvenated. You'll see the lights on Broadway, the famous theaters along 42nd Street, and the smaller, perhaps more interesting ones just off the main strip. If you're a mature pop music fan, you can worship at the altar that is the Brill Building, where so many classic tunes were written. If you're slightly younger, you can see the famous MTV Building. And who knows who you might see coming out. Now, we have to include a museum. New York has so many. You cannot go home without seeing the MoMA, or the Museum of Modern Art. I think it has, but I'm biased, the world's finest collection of 20th and 21st century art. The place can only be described as indescribable. Now, down to Soho, which stands for south of Houston Street. That's Houston Street, not Houston Street. An Englishman saying Houston Street is like an American saying Leicester Square. Anyway, Soho is downtown New York's hip and now very glamorous neighborhood. But not so many years ago, who'd have thought it? The whole area was an industrial slum. Once the artists and writers moved into the grubby old lofts and cast iron warehouses, the place was slowly transformed. Great quirky shops and restaurants, and just a really good vibe. Finally, Brooklyn Bridge. At the time it was built, it was the biggest suspension bridge in the world, and the first one made of steel. 150,000 vehicles cross it every day. But the way to do it is on foot. Walking high above the Hudson River, the enormous steel cables above your head, you will get views of the Manhattan skyline that will make your jaw hit the floor. And actually, when you come home, close your eyes and think of New York. That is a sight you will see.